All right, it's trade deadline day in the PWHL, and we were expecting a quiet day. Pretty much people said there won't be much action. Well, at the last minute, there was a flurry of action, so we're going to talk about it in the Trade Center edition of the PWHL Puck Drop Podcast.
It's time for the PWHL Puck Drop Podcast.
So, trade deadline day in the PWHL wasn't quite the flurry that we had in the NHL, but surprisingly, we did get a couple of trades. So, here to help me break it down is our friend Lindsay from PW Central. Welcome on in, Lindsay.
Thanks for having me again. Super excited to talk about the trades.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I'm glad to talk about this. It was really surprising. First of all, were you surprised when you heard that there were some sort of last minute trades coming through to talk about?
Yeah, for sure. You said, did you hear about the trades? And then I looked and I was like, holy crap, there's quite a few.
Yeah, it was at the last minute actually when the actual deadline was closing that I think they were processing through the league office. So let's get right to it. Obviously there's one team that was really active, and I think that the trades that happened between Ottawa and Montreal and then Ottawa and Boston, to me, were because those are the teams that are fighting for those final spots. I mean, maybe Toronto and Minnesota feel like they're pretty settled, and maybe New York feels like maybe they tried, but didn't really press the need for a trade. So the first one that broke, we heard the name Benisheva, and Montreal fans were a little bit dismayed with that. And then we kind of heard who might be going the other way. Amanda Boulier, would it be plus somebody else? We weren't sure. And then we heard that indeed was the trade. Teresa Benisheva goes from Montreal to Ottawa, and Montreal receives in return defender Amanda Boulier. What are your thoughts on that one?
First off with Amanda Boulier, really like her game. She's taken a bit of a beating this season. A couple of suspensions were on her. But I really like her game. I like how she steps up in the play. She's a very offensive defenseman, but still comes back a lot. So I am going to miss her on Ottawa. With Benisheva, I feel like she had a really strong start, and then she's cooled off a little bit since then. But I'm really excited that she's going to be going. Obviously, the Czech connection with Carla McLeod, just stockpiling all the Czech players onto her team. I don't know. I like it. I feel bad for Lishkova because she's going to be on her own now.
Right.
But you're uniting three of the Czech players now on the same team. I hope that gets Benisheva going again. I don't think she'll play with Mrazova because that line's been really good. Jenner, Mrazova, Watts, that line's probably been their best line. So I don't think she'll play with her, but hopefully just the familiarity, having her fellow Czech teammates, Terelova's there too. I think that'll help her.
Yeah, for sure. The Czechs are gathering in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I have to think that was a big reason. In fact, I'm going to read this quote from GM Mike Hirschfeld, who said, obviously, our coach knows exactly what she brings to the table, talking about Benisheva. She's an incredibly exciting top six forward who is under contract for next season as well. She is one of the best skaters in the world, and we are thrilled to add that dimension to our roster. And she, out of the 4+1 players that were traded, is the only one that actually will also be signed for next year. So I'm thinking that had a role in maybe tipping what Montreal might be eyeing to do by bringing in Boulier, and then her contract expires, so they'll open up a spot. There are going to be a lot of open spots next season, but he referred to her as a top six forward.
Yeah, so we'll see where she slots in. That'll be interesting to see. Like I said, that I think that if you can call them the second line, I think that's pretty short up.
Yeah.
Then you got Clark, Skamura, the top line. Maybe she'll slide up there. I feel like Ottawa's team has been like you can kind of shift everybody around. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a third line player. Like you're just kind of shifting everybody. But she'll bring a lot of speed. I think that'll help Ottawa. Emily Clark is a really fast player. I think throw Benisheva in there. She would maybe work really well with Clark because they are both so fast. So that'll be an interesting matchup if she does play on that top line.
Yeah, it's going to give Coach McLeod some different options. And like you said, I think a lot of players have had maybe stretches of like 4 to 5 games where they're either warmer or colder.
Hmm.
Venisheva looked like she was maybe cold, warm, cold. I don't know, but I do think the Czech factor will. I mean, it's got to help her with, feeling familiar, even though I believe Lishkova was pretty much her best friend, as you told us.
Yeah, yeah, that's sad that they're gonna get. It sucks that she's been injured like most of the season. I haven't seen an update if she's gonna be playing at the World Championships or not, but I hope she comes back. She was one of my favorite players at the beginning.
I agree. Tomorrow is the roster freeze where they will have to announce the active roster, the LTIR, and the reserves. So we'll see. I know Lishkova was not named to the uh, Women's World Championship roster. And what I read from their point of view is when they lost, and she's a right-handed defender, so of course those are trickier to come by.
Yeah.
She was out since the beginning of February, and then basically Catherine Daou took her spot and is a -1 in 18 games total compared to Montreal's other right-handed defenders who are all +4. So take that for what you will. But they were already to me a team where their defense was a little dicey and with Lishkova gone. So it seems like GM Sauvageau in that case was operating maybe a little bit more out of, necessity in needing to fill that spot with the injuries that have happened on that team, including of course to Poulin, but since they added Michaela Grant Mentis, so maybe that makes up for the loss of Venisheva.
Yeah, really excited to see her back in the league after Ottawa dismissed her. But I didn't even really think about that. But you're right, Boulier will add to that decor. They're not really getting a ton of offense outside of maybe Ambrose does provide the offense, but hopefully maybe she'll step up a little bit into that spot. So that's a good add for them.
Yeah, and I agree. I wouldn't even call it offense that they seem to need as much as just puck movers and like,
Hmm.
just confident puck movers. They've done all right, but going in against, either Toronto or Minnesota without somebody that you really feel you can rely on, and obviously Boulier is 30 years old and she does have a good shot from the point. Our friend Chris Sinclair has told us about that a bunch of times. And so I think she's a really good ad. So do we want to give it a grade for each team? Like, I think this is kind of a win-win, more so than the other trades. Like I would give both teams a B+ on this one, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping Venisheva will provide a little bit of offense for Ottawa, which I think they've had a little bit of trouble scoring goals. So I'm hoping her speed, getting in on the forecheck quickly, that'll help maybe force some goals for them. And then yeah, Boulier I think is a really good ad. So I think this works out for both teams.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I think there's a little more to get into when we saw also coming across PWHL Twitter. Wait, there's a second trade involving Ottawa. Fans were, was watching a couple of different conversations, and they were like, just, hoping it was either some kind of a blockbuster or just like, please no, everyone was on pins and needles. We've never been through this before.
Yeah.
And so indeed we had Lexia Gia, the fast fan favorite, being traded to PWHL Boston for forward Cheyenne Darkangelo. And there was also college player Katrin Lonergan, who was drafted in the 14th round by Ottawa and then never signed and was actually taking the year off. So I really want to get your impressions on this.
Well, I haven't like read any of the reactions yet, but I can imagine Ottawa fans are not very happy considering, like you said, she was a quick fan favorite. Um, I've got my Boston shirt right there. I'm gonna say they got the win on this. Like, I really like Agia's game. I know she's been very quiet since the first couple of weeks, but I still really like her game. She's super young. Like, she's only 23, which is kind of hard to believe, but she's a really big presence on the power play. You got Keller with the boom from the point. She can really set that screen. So I think that'll be good for Boston. I haven't really noticed Dark Angelo too much. I mean, I see her here and there, but there's not really the production from her. What do you think?
About the same. I would have to pull up Dark Angelo's stats in the PHF because I know she had more than what she has right now in
Mhm.
the PWHL, which is 1 assist, 1 point, -5 in her 17 games played. So yeah, the fans were reacting, and then they were also kind of stepping on themselves to say, wait a minute, it's not just about numbers.
Mhm.
But I think what's a little strange to me, and I'll read you the quote in a minute, but they seem to be almost similar players, like power forwards, or maybe Gia's a little more leans offensively power play, and Dark Angel's more that third line, heavier presence. Maybe she can kill penalties, but I'll pull up the quote here from Mike Hirschfeld on what he said about her. Dark Angelo is a veteran player who's been through battles and playoff races.
Mhm.
Um, oh, here in the PHF, she had 25 points in 24 games to lead the Toronto Six to the Isabel Cup. So she
Okay.
definitely has more off. There's more offense there. And then he said, and I think this is meaningful, we wanted to add her experience to our roster. She is going to work hard and bring veteran leadership.
Okay, so that's obviously different than Agia, who's 23, and
Yeah.
this is her first year in the pros. So I guess like that makes sense. I'm still not really happy they gave up Agia to do that though. I don't know. She was one of my favorites. She has been, like I said, players are going through the ebbs and flows of the season, but Ottawa making a lot of moves. I guess they're pushing for that last playoff spot, and they're doing it against Boston. It's always weird when you trade with a team that you're fighting against, but you kind of have to with the PWHL because you're all in the same division.
Yeah, like we saw with the Jakes and Tapani trade,
Hmm.
they quickly played each other. But this one, I was even more surprised to see this than Ottawa trading with Montreal, strictly because, I think Montreal, there are enough games that they could slip back, but it feels like Ottawa and Boston are fighting for that final
Hmm.
playoff spot. So both GMs, putting themselves out there on the line and saying, you take my player, I'll take yours. And we both hope this doesn't, end up badly, making our end look bad. So yeah, I was just surprised to see a direct swap like that.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how Agia takes this. Like, does she take that as you got rid of me? I'm gonna come beat you now, like that sort of thing.
It seems like she might be that kind of player. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I
Yeah.
mean, but I agree. From just an overall league standpoint, I think I mean, good for them. They put their hockey needs first and felt like, did what they felt like was necessary for the team. However, with social media and the community in
Mhm.
Ottawa and how, they took to her and she took to them, this does have a little bit of an ouch feeling to it for
Yeah.
Ottawa fans. I'm sure Dark Angelo's a great player, but nowhere near the personality and the big, bold statements that Agia was making. So that does make me a little sad. But we're going to see a lot of turnover, like we mentioned. So many of these players that are on 1 year deals. So it's like either, they've found the teams and players find each other and continue on, or there's just going to be like a free for all in the summer.
Yeah, I think it's important for fans to know, like, this isn't the NHL where you have that player for the next 5 years. Like, you only have them on 1 year deals. So these are almost like rentals, like that you would see in the NHL, where you're only keeping them really till the end of the season, except for like Venisheva, who's signed the next year.
Yeah, and the three cornerstones for each team. Yeah. So what do you think this is going to do? I think the other small storyline, and then when I put the graphic on screen, we see highlighted for Boston is Loren Gabel, who's a bit of a question mark. I don't know if that played into their decision there, but are there any other notes that make this significant or that you see affecting this race for the playoff spots?
I mean, that was really hard to watch with Gable. I don't know if it was her shoulder. That's what they were saying. Um, yeah, we don't know if she's gonna be coming back at all. That's a really big threat for Boston. I wasn't even sure what she was really doing on the third line. Like, I'm a little curious how Kessel's been using her players. Like, there are players like Gable who I feel like she should be with Mueller. Like, those two had great chemistry. Maybe I don't know if they went cold for a little bit, but I would have kept them together. Knight kind of keeps going and then stopping, stop. She's been very inconsistent compared to like Poulin, for example, or Carpenter, who are, they're very night in, night out. And I've personally never seen Hillary Knight like in the CWHL, like where she was playing a season. Like, I don't know if she's not used to this sort of environment where it's not a tournament. Like, do you know what I mean?
True enough. I can't say I remember what her stats were there, but I don't remember it, being anything unusual. Whereas right now, unless, the game the other day um in Detroit woke her up, she scored the one goal and the shootout, basically
In
the
the
winning
shoot.
goal. And a game like that can turn your season right around. And with Gable out, and you're right, Coach Kessel has to figure out, how she's going to manage these players, if she's going to elevate a Gia into a top six role, which I think she probably will, and how to get, Mueller looking a little more confident. And it's still going to come down, I think, to whether Knight, she basically got them those 2 points by
Yeah.
scoring her two
Yeah.
goals. So, she herself can make the difference for that team, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, she can. We know that. We've watched her over the years. We know she knows how to step up in big moments. So, I mean, maybe down the line for that final spot, like she really pulls them into the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
We'll have to look at the schedule and see if there's a game right towards the end, Boston versus Ottawa. I mean, each team is pretty much down to their last seven. Um, I think everybody's played 17 right on by now. So 7 games left. I mean, that is just not many.
No, that's crazy. I'm sad. I'm really sad that the season's coming to an end here.
It's got so fast.
I know.
I wish they'd started a little earlier, or if we could just have more of this. And we're gonna have the break for the Women's World Championships, of course, which is almost good to just like take a breath, hoping it doesn't disturb momentum for certain teams that are doing well.
I hope nobody gets hurt. I don't want to see a
Oh,
Heise situation again where then they don't have their best player.
I totally agree. No matter what the circumstances, the game, the opponent,
Mm-hmm.
you never want to see that, and you don't want to win based on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm really, really hoping that Poulin is back for the World Championships and continues to finish out the season with Montreal. When I saw her, I was at that Friday game, as you know, I talked
Yeah.
about it, and um, I was able to tell folks that it sort of looked. I mean, everyone's saying knee. There was a play with Spooner that I think she kind of twisted, but it almost looked maybe like her hip or something a little higher, but hard to say what happened after the game. But apparently she was running the stairs after that game against Toronto. Maybe,
Okay.
maybe trying to work it out or
Yeah.
just make sure it didn't stiffen up before a bus ride or overnight or something like that. Probably could have run the stairs in the hotel or something, but yeah, so I heard that, and that's a little insider tidbit that I was like, well, if she was doing that, it's not a torn ACL. It's not
It
something that
can't be too
she's not
bad.
on crutches. She's not,
Yeah.
so that bodes well for
Hopefully
her.
it's cautionary sort of thing. Like, I know she probably wanted to play against Toronto. the way that series has went. Like they really needed her in that game. But at the same time, I selfishly hope she's resting for the World Championships because I really want her on Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's a very close run for first right now. So I'm sure they want her there. They're just getting depleted by the injuries. It's been tough for Montreal.
Yeah, yep. That's why, I think this move was called for. And yeah, you don't want to see a team's season dictated by that, with important players and really with anybody. This is their first, professional season, and your heart goes out to Loren Gabel and, the
Yeah,
players, couple on Ottawa, Gasparts and Della Rovere, I
boy.
believe. And, just sending them our good wishes, not to get, too wishy-washy or corny about it, but we just
Oh, we
want
want them. We want them better. We want them on the ice. We want to see them out there because we love watching them.
for sure. And they played well and they deserve it. And hopefully they'll be back next year. And just before we finish, do you know anything about Katrin Lonergan? I guess she's a Massachusetts product who played for the Connecticut Whale in the PHF, 18 points in 23 games there, and is apparently did let Ottawa know that she was going to take the season off, and wasn't going to sign. So maybe adding her to that deal, knowing that Boston will have the ability to get her around and sign her for next year maybe came into play. It kind of looked, I mean, she is a native. She played at Boston College and I believe at Clarkson as well. And she, I think, is 26. So, people were saying, don't forget about that. That's not just a throw in. That's a player that could be very good if it's almost like trading her signing rights, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's get her in Boston. Let's get her around the team and kind of know that we can grab her next year in a deal. So I don't know if that softens the loss of a Gia.
I don't know because we don't really know her
Yeah.
yet.
Well, actually, that would go the other way around because she's going to Boston. So that makes it worse. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, she's going with a Gia to Boston. So sorry about that. I had the wrong way around. But if you had to call it, I mean, would you see Ottawa making it in with these trades?
it's tough. I mean, they're so close. They can't get those overtime points. Like that would go a long way. I really thought they had it. I freaked out at that Jenner chance. I
Oh.
thought she had it, and they were gonna finally kind of break the curse of the overtime.
It's got to feel like a curse right now. It really
Mhm.
does.
Yeah, there's some teams that are just not really good in overtime, like the 3-on-3 setup and then the shootout. I mean, they have Mrazova. I was really happy they put her in the shootout this time because she has great hands, but it's really hard to say because Boston's struggling too. Like I really don't know who's going to get that last spot. We'll see how the trade kind of shakes up both teams. That might have an effect.
Definitely. And I think the getting the 3 points, having the game on the weekend go, to a two point and 1 point split. I think
Mhm.
neither team really wanted that. They're having,
No, it just keeps it close still.
it's like we're still just carving it out. So we won't know until the World Championship break, but that's fine. We're going to stay tuned and we're going to be glued to the screen. And speaking of the World Championships, just very quickly before we close off here, we're going to do a couple live streams at least,
Mm.
just if it's Lindsay and myself just watching, we'll have a great time, but we invite you all to hop on board. I'm posting the link on my YouTube page. That's where we'll stream that. We'll be watching the game off screen and then just having stats and updates and conversation live. So please join us for that. The World Championships get underway April 3rd. Really looking forward to that.
So excited for that. Like we said, we're really excited to watch Czechia this year, watch Carl McLeod, and then watch all our favorite Czech players on one team. I think is going to be so cool. They kind of are now. They're the 3 are on Ottawa, but
They're gathering, they're circling. Yes. No,
it'll be interesting to see if they're, fighting for bronze or if they're even fighting in the semis. We'll see.
could definitely be. Well, thanks, Lindsay. We're going to wrap it up. Those trades were just a little added spice to our PWHL season. But thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, whatever platform you're listening or watching. I do appreciate your support, and we're going to keep up the coverage for you. So we'll see you in the next one.
My tagline, P-Dub, peace out.
PWHL Puck Drop Podcast.